What's the most satisfying act of I don't give a duck that you have ever witnessed? In my history course in college, professor would give us like 10 questions a week before exam, then on the exam he'd have 3 of those questions we had to answer in a short essay response. Everyone would just pick the 3 easiest questions from the 10, write it up and save it to their phones, then when we had to do the exam just pull out our phones and copy it. We wouldn't even respond to the specific questions on the exam. Oh, and 10% of our grade was by attendance. He'd pass out a piece of paper and everyone write their name on it. I'd see 40 names on it, half with the same handwriting and pen, but only 15 kids in the class. That professor didn't give a duck. Edit, he had a super thick Persian accent and very difficult to understand, for those wondering if you went to the same college I did. Back when I worked at a movie theater, one of my fellow assistant managers, Jack, had the constant attitude of not giving a duck. He'd worked at the theater longer than anyone and was good friends with the general manager, so he got away with murder. One time this lady wanted a refund for a movie she finished watching. She was going crazy, screaming at us about how the movie was so inappropriate to be rated PG-13 and she couldn't stand all the swearing in the movie. I kept calmly trying to explain to her that since the movie was already over we couldn't give her a refund. Our policy clearly stated no refunds after 30 minutes into showtime. She's not hearing it, and looks to Jack now, like he will give her the answer she wants. He starts saying the same thing I did, and she interrupts him again with her yelling about how she couldn't stand all the swearing in the film. Jack rolls his eyes and just says, "Well, that's just too ducking bad," and walks off. Cue stun look on my face and the ladies. Work in Geek Squad, another agent was really upset that day and had a rough patch of a few clients who were really mean and extremely rude to him. After bearing through them and after about a 10-minute break he helped another client. Their first words were, "Alright, Best Buy gave me a hit product that broke after 6 months and I want you to fix it right now," which he explained that there's a process and he couldn't fix it right now, and the guy cut him off and said, "I don't care, get it done." Well, he sat there for a second quiet. And took off his badge, slapped it on the table, yelled "Duck you," then started walking towards the front door with middle fingers up pointing at everyone, then said, "And duck this place," and walked out. When I went home and on Steam I saw he bought GTA 5, he then had 200 hours played in 2 weeks after that, haven't checked since. Little bit late, but at Air Force basic training when you first show up you're either in civilian clothes or the uniform with sneakers, because they don't want to duck up your feet I guess, and are affectionately called sneaker weakers. While at chow if the table behind you gets up, you need to get up and leave regardless if you're finished. If 2 tables behind you get up you'll be swarmed by MTIs and have them scream in your face until you do get up. I had just put my tray back and started to walk out when I look back and see one lone sneaker weaker by himself in a row of 5 or 6 tables, surrounded by 6 MTIs. Kid is staring straight ahead and just eating his food one spoonful at a time while the MTIs scream in his face. Finishes his food, sets his spoon down, picks up his drink and just slowly finishes his water, turns his glass over, puts it down, picks up his tray and walks up to put it away while still being screamed at by 6 MTIs. Kid is walking out and I realize everyone in the room is staring at him. He has no emotion, no fear, no smirk, nothing as he walks out of the chow hall. I was training a new bartender at this fairly upmarket restaurant nightclub. She previously worked at a dive bar for students. Second night into her training, the 2-foot-long rubber shots mat with the Red Bull logo on it disappeared off the top of the bar. My trainee went around the other side of the bar to look for it, thinking it had fallen off. Next thing I know she's pulled it out of the back of a dude's pants and slapped it back on the bar. She then grabbed him by the upper arm, spun him around so that he was bent over the bar and spanked him on his bum. I mean really walloped him while telling him off loudly for being a stupid hithead. And then she returned to the bar and washed her hands to get the stupid off of her. Some Karen was beefing about a 25 cents off coupon. The coupon was for a 42-ounce bottle of something, but she wanted a 28-ounce bottle. The coupon was rejected when scanned, because, duh, there was no product to match it. There was nothing the cashier could do, but Karen just kept demanding 25 cents off. Finally, the guy ahead of me in line marched up to the counter, slapped a quarter down, and said, "There's your ducking 25 cents off, now pay your ducking bill so the rest of us can go on with our days." I did the same thing once. I was waiting to get my car back from a brake job and this dude was complaining about how the price for an oil change was $25 and he was only going to pay $25 even though the sign also said plus taxes and fees or something. The total bill comes out to like $32 or something. No big deal really, everyone knows about tax and about disposal fees at places like this. A point to know is that this dude was one of the 3 people in the town who together owned about 90% of the rental properties. This is a college town and they make the prices incredibly expensive because they know they can since everyone is paying for it with loans. This is to say the dude had a ton of money, it's not like the extra $7 was breaking the bank for him. So, the dude wasn't having it and kept arguing with the guy for 5-10 minutes. My car was done and I wanted to leave since I was sitting there for about 2 hours waiting, so I ended up walking up to the counter and saying something to the tune of "Stop pitching at the worker. I'll pay your ducking bill, just leave, I want to go." He tried to say that he doesn't need my help, in which I responded, "Then pay the ducking $30 and duck off." He tried to make a point where the sign says $25 so it should be $25. I gave the worker there my card and told him to run that and again told the dude to just go and that none of us want to hear him bitch like a little girl anymore. He ended up getting mad at this college kid talking down to him and stormed out without paying. The worker didn't run my card for his job. What was nice was that the guy working at the counter owned the min row I was at, didn't know at the time, and made me only pay for parts on the work I got done and not labor, since I said was he always wanted to say to that dude. Apparently the guy has been a problem in the past, so I thought the gesture was really nice of him, and I was a decently broke college kid, so saving the cost on labor was a lot to me. Every time I tell this story I feel like a poster on our that happened or something, but I promise it's 100% true. I typically keep to myself in those situations, but I really wanted to go and I could see the tired expression on the owner's face as he was done with the dude's hit, so I felt like I had to say something. I worked in a hotel that had a full-service restaurant with a buffet in the center of it. Minutes before closing up, we had a Karen come in with a friend. She was already pissed and whining because the hotel gave her vouchers for the buffet, but she wanted to order off the menu and didn't like that she'd have to pay for it. She ended up ordering 2 eggs and wanted them poached hard. I bring them out and she immediately stabs the egg and complains that the yolk is too soft. Sends them back. We check and it's a standard hard poach. She just wants them rock hard apparently. I bring out the next set. Same complaint and they're sent back again. Repeat once more. Our cook was an old basshole that had been working there 30+ years and very obviously ran out of ducks to give a long time ago. After I brought the last set back, he cursed under his breath and said he'd bring out the last set. He was done and wanted to go home. I go out to clean off some tables and see him storm out with a plate. He goes to the buffet, in full view of Karen, grabs 2 hard-boiled eggs, and walks them to her. Throws the plate down without a word and walks back to the kitchen. It took everything I had not to burst out laughing as Karen stares in shock for a few seconds before she starts screeching to our manager. It was me doing it. I worked at a 24-hour restaurant. My shifts mostly were Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, 6 p.m. to 4 a.m. The manager of the restaurant really believed I wanted his job, so he would write me up for the most ridiculous things. One time he wrote me up for a bad review from a customer, on a night that I wasn't even working. That one got him in trouble with the regional manager. Moving forward, it was a stupidly busy Saturday night, about 5:45 p.m. I got into work and he met me with yet another write-up. This time for allowing the kitchen to run out of a particular item during my last shift. I didn't even do the orders, but apparently it was my fault. So, I went back to my car, took off my uniform, put on normal clothes I had in there, walked up to the kitchen counter where he was busy with the kitchen staff and some waitresses and waiters. He looked at me, told me what area I would be working that night. I looked him dead in the eye and said I don't think so. He said it again, and again I said I don't think so. This time handing him all of my uniforms. As I turned to walk out of the restaurant, he called out after me, "You can't do this. You are rostered on." I turned, pulled my height and said, "Oh honey, I can," and I just did. As I have been rostered for only 37 hours in total each week for the past 6 weeks, it is deemed I am part-time. As a part-time employee, I am only required to submit my resignation. I am not required to give you any notice. He called me about an hour later and begged me to go back. Yeah, duck you mate, that's not happening. Had an inland flight about 3 years ago. This kid in the row behind me, prob 6-8 years old, started to kick my seat after takeoff. It was not a long flight, about 1.5 hour. But I hate this kind it. So I turned around and sure enough, that prick was kicking my seat, while his mom and dad was sitting on either side of him, pretending to not notice. First I kindly asked the dad if he could make him stop, and he somewhat tried to convince his kid to stop. The kid sulked, but seemed to get the memo. At least for 1 minute, and then proceeded to kick my seat again. And once again I turned around, and this time, dropped the pleasantries, and told them that this was a golden opportunity to teach their kids some manners. As this is Norway, and some people are starting to feel more entitled than others, this didn't go that well, and mom started to yell at me, and that he is just a kid, and needs to express himself. It is at this moment the flight attendant arrives, and I try to explain the situation, while this kid's hitty mom and dad tries to bagatelize my complaint, by saying I'm the one who is making a scene. The flight attendant, not wanting any trouble as we are miles above ground, tries to explain that kicking the seat can be annoying and that we all should just get along. Flight attendant leaves, and kicking commences, so I simply picked up my stuff, walked to the row behind them, asked the woman behind them, if she would be so nice to could move to the window seat, so I could get the middle seat. She just smiled and nodded. I sat down behind the kid, and started kicking for the 40-50 minutes that was left of the flight. TL Dr. Kid was kicking the back of my seat, parents didn't want to do anything about it, traded to a seat behind them, and started kicking the kid's seat. Edit. Apparently bagatelize is not an English word, and what I meant was trivialize. Sorry. Edit 2. Wow, thank a lot for the awards. I'm new to Reddit so I'm not sure what it does, but I'm happy either way. Also I would thank you all for the support. Reddit truly is a great community. Edit 3. Apparently I have to address this. Since it's an airplane, the seats are locked together, thus the parents felt my kicks just as good as the kid in the middle. I didn't kick so hard that anyone would go flying, just enough to be ducking annoying. There was this huge security guard at the place I worked. Like bodybuilder huge. He dressed in a suit every day, because of the job we were working. I was a valet and he was just making his rounds for the night, stopped to have a chat with me. Super nice guy. This smarmy guy pulls up in a BMW. He had the body of Jigglypuff, was balding with the sparse tufts of hair and a comb-over. He was about 5 feet 7 inches and he's wearing a Bill Cosby sweater. He parks his car angled towards the curb, back end about 4 feet into the street. Front wheel 4 inches from curb. He's parked right in front of the main entrance, and we don't allow any cars to block the curb directly in front of the entrance. It's basically for dropping off your car or people in the car and then getting out of the way. The smarmy guy hops out and tries to just brush by me. I say, "Sir, I need your keys." He says, "I'll just be a minute." I say again, "Sir, I need your keys." He keeps trying to walk inside and I step in front of him. I explain, I'll leave your car parked on the street, but I cannot have it blocking the entrance. So now he gets all pissy and says, "Don't you know who I am?" And I say, "No, sir. I just need your keys." He scoffs and reaches into his purse, then he pulls out a second tiny purse which had his key fob inside. He's standing about 5 feet away, he yeets his purse fob into my face. It bounces off my forehead and lands onto the ground. I didn't move, I just looked down like, did that really just ducking happen? Silent security guy has been standing 10 feet away the whole time. He's now walking over slowly from the smarmy guy's side. Smarmy guy screams at me, "I'm a lawyer. And you're nothing." Security guy grabs smarmy guy by the back of his sweater, slams his entire body, face into the glass and calmly says, "I'm security. I have just witnessed an assault. All of this is on camera. Do you want to apologize to this gentleman, or should we ask if he wants to press charges? The PD is downstairs having their daily meal." Smarmy guy apologizes and I let him go inside. I move his car and when I get back the security guy says, "Duck and basshole." Later I find out security guy is off-duty police officer lol. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe for more stories like this. Do you have a story like these of your own? Let us know in the comments below.